that we just welcome everybody to the Applied HE Pakukoa webinar on new strategies to global recognition and excellence. And we will now start with the welcome remarks delivered by the Philippines Pakukoa Chairman, Dr. Conrad Inigo Jr. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Peter. To our distinguished academic partner from Applied HE, Ms. Mandy Mok, Mr. Peter Steck, and Simon from Applied HE, Pakukoa Board of Directors, Pakukoa Executive Director, Dr. Adlai Castigador, school officials, seasoned accreditors, Pakukoa Secretariat, my colleagues in basic and higher education, quality champions, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am pleased to welcome you to our webinar, bringing together the academic leaders and our global academic partner from Applied HE. Indeed, quality education through voluntary accreditation, certification, and world university ranking generated positive outcomes in the enhancement of teaching and learning process, employability of graduates, research engagement, community involvement, internationalization of schools, and building institutional reputation. The objectives of this webinar are to achieve the following outcomes. First, situate the Philippines within the rapidly expanding context of internationalization of education. Second, explain the significance of quality assurance standards and Applied HE world rating and ranking, and establish the need to make internationalization a priority development strategy for Philippine higher education institutions in light of education megatrends in the fourth industrial revolution. Quality assurance mechanisms, either locally or internationally recognized, that are being adopted by the higher education institutions must reflect on the quality of their graduates, which is the ultimate indicator of measuring the performance of an institution. HEIs of most developed countries are sustaining various program accreditation for a stronger partnership between the academe and the industries in the respective regions, and as well as to attract foreign students as they incorporate the international standards and international qualification frameworks. I'm pleased to inform you, or I would like to inform you, that nearly 1% of the market share of international students in the world opted to study in the Philippines. So I think that is considered a big challenge for the Philippine HEIs, and it is recommended that strengthening the degree program or academic program through world university rating and ranking must be the focus of the marketing strategy of the higher education institutions. Such academic endeavor serves as the ultimate goal of any higher education institution, not only in the pursuit for accreditation, but also for global recognition as well. Accreditation process and world ranking of private and government schools can measure and monitor the performance of various academic institutions. Developed countries are now reaping their benefits from the process of internationalization and ranking, while the developing countries are still aiming to be part of the process. In the Philippines, the Commission on Higher Education, or CHED, supports the initiatives of schools to undergo voluntary accreditation and international certification or ranking through giving incentives, recognition, and greater autonomy. Compliance to certain international standards and practices of most developed countries makes one organization from a third world country like the Philippines achieve its competitive advantage. To fully recognize the strength of Philippine academic institution, I would suggest that part of the marketing strategy of schools is to obtain an international accreditation and comply with the criteria of world ranking or rating from reputable accrediting, ranking, and certifying bodies. Consequently, we noted that international accreditation built around internal quality assurance mechanisms has proven to be an effective tool in enhancing the quality of the academic programs. Lastly, I would like to take this opportunity to express our sincerest appreciation and heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished global academic partner, the Applied HE, for supporting the significance of accreditation and outlining the positive outcomes of global ranking or rating in pursuit of improving the quality of education in the Philippines and eventually produce globally competitive graduates. Thank you. Stay safe. God bless.
All right, thank you very much. And then we turn the floor over to the Applied HE founder and CEO, Ms. Mandy Mock.
Thank you. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon and greetings to the distinguished PACOCOA Board of Directors and members. My name is Mandy Mock and I'm the founder and CEO of Applied HE. It is a great pleasure for me to be part of this briefing for PACOCOA members. Thank you so much for having us. I'm really excited to be here today. PACOCOA, like accreditors everywhere, is moving towards internationalization. This is undoubtedly a positive development and will make the Philippine higher education system more competitive. Internationalization will help the Philippines leverage on its existing advantages, and that would be your English language, your strategic Asia-Pacific location, the low cost of living, and the high quality of life in the Philippines. And we at Applied HE are very keen to support the internationalization of Philippine universities. We have produced Applied HE as a fresh, modern, and totally relevant concept in global benchmarking and branding of higher education institutions, offering solutions that are focused on employability and learning. Applied HE was launched on the 1st of January of 2020, and it has been the most incredible and fun journey building this business. We're still very young, and being young makes us nimbler, hungrier, and more sensitive to your needs. Plus, you now have an alternative choice from what is currently available in the market. a globally oriented higher education, evaluation, and branding company that is rooted in Asia and aims to positively disrupt the global higher education sector. You'll find our tagline for the company aptly amplifies that: skills and job ready, future proof. And our strength lies in reaching out not only to academics, but also include stakeholders from industry, civil society, government, students, parents, alumni, faculty, basically everybody. Applied AG is the new brand for all skills-based employment-focused education, and our mission is designed to help universities to communicate with your stakeholders, engage with your international and local peers, industry and governments, and brand your institution worldwide, including improving in the rankings. And our vision is to be the dominant brand that empowers employability and lifelong learning. As Pacocoa is moving towards internationalization, I would like to share with you a comprehensive strategy to achieve this. A comprehensive internationalization strategy consists of different components and works by self-reinforcing. As your institution works to improve in one area, there are spillovers into other areas which you can then invest in and boost up. Specifically, I would like to talk about 4 complementary internationalization strategies in which Applied AG can help you, and they are evaluation tools, global reputation and networking, special events, and special projects. A key part of any internationalization strategy is recognition. It is extremely useful to have a stamp of approval from an international ranking or rating organization which communicates quality to prospective international partners and students. Therefore, I would like to start by discussing our evaluation tools. I'm pleased to say Applied AG now has 3 rating systems. They serve as benchmarks and marketing tools to your institution's quest for global branding and excellence. We have the all-round job-ready rating system to evaluate the quality of teaching and learning and employability of your graduates. The job-ready rating system aligns well with Industry 4.0 principles, including the SDGs, that's the Sustainable Development Goals, and the EFQM, Quality Management Framework, putting it in a class of its own among higher education evaluation systems. It's organized around 22 employment clusters. So what this means is it can put a spotlight on every program. The job ready rating is the silver bullet that meets your institution's quality assurance and branding needs. We also have an English ready rating to evaluate the quality of English language instruction in non-English speaking countries. And Philippine institutions may not need this. Nevertheless, it is also a great marketing tool for the recruitment of international students. And the online ready rating, which helps your institution benchmark and promote its online programs and courses. These tools can translate into affordable strategies for global branding and marketing of your institution. Coming back to the job ready rating, I mentioned that it is organized around 22 employment clusters. This is the employment cluster adapted from the International Standard Industrial Classification. There are 22 of them, so the job ready rating can cover all sectors of the economy. And this list is growing daily because the world is changing so fast that there are many jobs out there today that never existed in the past. Jobs like these: e-commerce, gaming, coding, social media marketing, influencer, blogger, just to name a few. And these are not even proper words in the past, but today they are reputable and very much sought after jobs. And our unique approach to rating by employment clusters can accommodate these new jobs and the future economy. Now, I was asked to show a comparison of the Applied AG job ready rating and the QS stars. As you can see here, QS stars is only applicable to universities, whereas the job ready rating has a wider reach and includes not just universities, but also other institutions of higher learning like vocational, polytechnics, colleges, etc. In terms of criteria, STARS has a broad focus on all aspects of an institution, meaning it also measures non-academic stuff like how many swimming pools or track and field sports complexes that you may have, how many books does your library have, how many startups, etc. The job ready rating has a narrow focus, and we focus on things that are really important and relevant, like employability, industry collaboration, and the quality of teaching and learning. Their methodology uses data provided by the institution, which is then audited. Ours is focused on surveys of stakeholders, including alumni and employers, providing true validation and insights into stakeholder perspectives. And this is valuable information that all institutions need to devise strategies and creatives to meet their goals and objectives. The STARS focuses on broad institutional rating, which means they include everything generally. And for us, we rate by employment cluster, therefore providing added relevance to prospective students and employers. Our competitor charges 45,000 USD with no additional assistance to help with global branding. The Applied AG Job Ready rating charges only a fraction of that, with global branding and reputation building included to help you start your international journey. So this, in a nutshell, is the difference between us and them. I attended the recent Pacocoa Alumni General Assembly in December last year, and the new direction that was constantly emphasized was internationalization. And we at Applied AG would very much like to be on that journey with you, which is why we've created a very special package exclusively for Pacocoa members only. The cost of a job ready rating is US 38,000 for 3 years, and the first 20 institutions to sign up will enjoy a 50% discount. This works out to be US 19,000 for 3 years, or $6,333 US per year. The next 20 to 50 institutions to sign up will enjoy 40% off, and this works out to be $22,800 US for 3 years, or US 7,600 per year. And thereafter, from 51 institutions onwards, they will enjoy 30%, and that works out to be 26,600 for 3 years, or 8,866 per year. Still very competitive and affordable, considering our competitor is charging 45,000 US for just the ratings. And this is what the package consists of: the job ready rating, which is valid for 3 years, and global branding activities on Future and Extra for 1 year. I will explain what these two mediums are in the next slide. And the renewal fees for global branding for year 2 and 3, I promise you, it will be very affordable. Evaluations are just one component of a comprehensive internationalization strategy. A global reputation and network are also very important. Our strategies for building your brand and network on the global arena are these tools. The first one is Future, recently launched in January last year. Future is the world's first professional networking platform, specially created for the higher education sector. And Future aims to connect everyone from high school to professional career and all the way to lifelong learning. We're always introducing new features in Future, and recently we've introduced a feature to help you to engage and manage your alumni from near and far. And now we're in the process of building an alumni relationship management system to help you manage your alumni more efficiently with data. And the good news is all the services offered in Future for now are complimentary. I will share 2 demos after this slide to show you how easy it is to engage and manage your alumni. We also have an e-news wire called Extra, now indexed by Google News. So please send us news about your institution so that we can let the world know about the excellence of Philippine universities. This is yet another complimentary service, so please do take advantage of it. Send your stories to us, or you can upload it yourself on Future. And you will have your institution's banner on these 2 platforms if you sign up for the package. Future and Extra are constantly marketed to the world, and being seen on these 2 platforms will definitely help to enhance and reinforce your reputation. The third strategy is our physical and virtual events, which goes under the brand Xchange. We're planning a physical event for the launch of the Applied AG Private University Ranking ASEAN sometime in April in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. subject to travel restrictions, of course. At the moment, it is looking positive, so I hope it will happen. Anyway, we will keep you posted. These are the two demos, about 2 to 3 minutes each, on how easy it is to engage and manage your alumni. The first video is about engagement with your alumni, and the second video is about our CRM and emailer system. And this is a great way to keep a tab on all your alumni and its activities. A CRM system will cost you an arm and a leg, but here we are offering it free to help you get started with your alumni engagement and management.
Mandy, I don't hear any sound. I don't know if it's me.
Oh, no.
Shall I do my best to narrate? Okay, this is a group being created. It's similar to Facebook. You can basically enter the information of your group, of your university.
Peter, please mute yourself.
Sorry? You can hear the sound? Okay, then I...
Yeah. Oh, you never press the audio. When you share screen, you must press the audio.
All right, we're having some technical difficulties. Simon, we can hear you. Thank you for mentioning that.
I'm sorry. What do I have to press now? So shall I stop share for a bit? Hang on. And I'll do the video again. So sorry. Can you hear now?
Not yet.
Mandy, it might be when you share screen, you can click somewhere, share audio. So you stop sharing screen, you share screen again, and you need to click a little box about share audio. That's the best suggestion I can make. Or you just let it play and I can chat.
Mute yourself first.
I mean, I can provide some running commentary. As you can see, it's very much like Facebook or some kind of social media platform. So you can upload pictures, you can customize everything. Mandy's going to try again. Otherwise, I'll just give running commentary to a quiet video. We can do that too.
I'm so sorry, I did click on that. I don't know why it's not sharing. Let me try again.
But otherwise,
Share
just let it play,
sound.
Mandy. And I'll just
Optimize for video clip.
Yeah, that might not be bad.
Okay, share. To share your computer audio, please include the Zoom audio device. Please restart your audio sharing application such as Media. Oh my God, what is the password?
Mandy, do you just want to play it and I talk about what's going on the screen?
Hang on, I think I got it.
Okay.
And you can share link.
Can you hear it now?
Yeah. Now it works.
Welcome to Applied HE Future and to this demonstration of how you can use this platform for alumni engagement and management. To get started with Alumni Management, you can start a group, and you can do that by clicking on the plus sign above and doing Create Group. You can then give your group a name and you'll see an automatic group URL being created, and then add a suitable description. You can then select the group type, public or private. If you want to have control over the group, you should select private, and you can then select a category such as alumni. We recommend that you set your group to private so that you have full control over who can view the information and comments. Once your group has been created, you can do a range of things such as setting an icon, setting a nice background image, and start to post right away. For example, you can post by adding images, you can post videos, and you can share links. Basically everything you would do on any other social media platform. You can also add existing users of the platform to any groups and of course chat with them, informing them of what is going on. Under Settings, very importantly under Privacy, as the group administrator, you can set confirm group joining requests to no, so that users can join the group immediately after registration.
Okay, never mind. Let's go on to the second video.
Hi everyone. Today I would like to talk about alumni management in Applied HE Future. First, you will have to go to one of the groups that you are joined. Once you are in the group, you can see on the right side a CRM tab. Then you will see the CRM dashboard, which you can see all the alumni details. From the dashboard, you can see total number of users, total number of postings, comments, and messages also. Also from this chart, you will be able to see monthly incremented users from here. You also can change, if you are in multiple groups, you also can change between different groups using this drop down. If you go to members section, you will be able to see all the members in the group. You can either message them from here. You can directly message them. You also can view their full profile. And the next feature is email sender. This is one of the latest features that we have released. Using this email sender, you can create an email template. From this email template, you can drag and drop different blocks from the left side. Then you can save it. Once the template is created, you can add content into the template. You will be able to edit all the content in the template. Also upload images. Then you will be able to change styling of each blocks. So once all the templates are done, you can send button here to send out the email template. Thank you, everyone.
So imagine you can now keep track, inform, email your alumni near and far of news and happenings of your institution anytime, anywhere, all on one platform. If your alumni is managed right, not only will it increase your employer reputation, it could also lead to lifelong learning in the later years, another avenue to expand your institution's offerings. Recently, Singapore's education minister said, to keep up with the times, universities must focus on continual learning and retrain those who have already graduated. He added that learning should take place throughout a person's life, and universities must be places that people regularly return to be equipped with new knowledge and skills. So if you want to build a lasting reputation, whether locally or internationally, with potential students, parents, corporates, and peers, you need to be in constant touch with your alumni. And there is no better strategy than with us on Future, the world's first social media platform for the higher education sector. And the best thing is it is completely free, so please do take advantage of it now. Do also bear in mind that all your reputation building activities done with us will also benefit universities who participate in other rankings. So contact us if you need another demo, or we can run another webinar that is specifically on how to use this service. And for now, since we can't travel because of COVID, we started a series of Squaring the Circle debate webinars since 2020. It was fun, provocative, very refreshing, and I believe we are the most active in the online space with one webinar organized every month. So we will be continuing this series into 2022, which would make it our third year organizing this series of Squaring the Circle debate. And the first episode is scheduled to start on the 2nd of March with the debate motion, Rankings Are Just Beauty Contests for Vain Universities. As you can see, we have the whole year's debate motion already planned. Another regular webinar that is alternating monthly with the Squaring the Circle debate is the Fireside Chat. And like Squaring the Circle debate, we will be continuing the Fireside Chat series into 2022, also our third year running. As you can see here, we have a whole new series planned for 2022. And the first Fireside Chat is on the 6th of April with the theme, The Future Shape of Sustainable Partnerships. Both our webinars are always on the first Wednesday of the month and always at 8 p.m. Singapore time or Philippine time. We also organize, on behalf of universities, bespoke webinars where we will undertake all production, branding, and marketing, etc. And here is a good example. We're organizing a series of exciting masterclasses jointly with City University of Hong Kong. This was our first one that was aired on the 15th of December last year. And the next one, our second one, is scheduled in 2 weeks' time on the 25th of February. There are 4 masterclasses in total. We will be sending emailers to all of you soon, so please sign up for this series of innovative masterclasses produced jointly with City University of Hong Kong. Special events are tactics that can help a university develop during the COVID-19 pandemic. While going online has posed many challenges, it has also created many opportunities. The bite-sized online internship is under our special events, and we're currently running a pilot with an African university later this year. This new initiative is the first of its kind, and it involves 3 groups of important stakeholders. They are your students, your university, and the employers. In short, for students, it will help them build a global network even before they graduate and connect with potential employers or industries before deciding on what they really want as a career. For universities, they will enhance the students' uni experience by exposing the students to an international online environment and connecting them to prospective international employers. And for the employers, they will have access to a diverse talent pool of top talent and original ideas. So you can see this new service is very innovative and creative and will definitely bring internships to a new level. Also under special events is the Applied HE Fireside Chat with students. Like the bite-sized internship, we're also running a pilot with an African university later this year. This is a webinar format that connects students to international employers, hence allowing students to gain insight into the recruitment process and employer expectations, while providing employers with an opportunity to connect with talented students. There are not much activities that focus on students, so this is something new and refreshing. This event is promoted globally, and it is a highly visible presentation of an institution's commitment to ensuring its students' international employability. And finally, Applied HE has special projects which your institution can participate in, and they're namely rankings. In addition to launching Future, we also launched the Rankometer in January of 2021, a new ranking that is based on one single and transparent benchmark. To be precise, the Rankometer is a composite ranking of the world's 5 most influential world university rankings. So please look out for Rankometer 2.0 later this year for some very interesting results. And so with the recent success and excitement from the launch of the Rankometer, plans to launch more important and relevant rankings are in the pipeline. We're now in the process of preparing the launch of the Applied HE Private University Rankings ASEAN, scheduled on the 23rd of February at 5 p.m. Philippine time. We're also planning a physical launch sometime in April in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. I hope you can all attend this physical event in KL. The Applied HE Private University Ranking is tilted towards teaching and learning and employability, which are the main strengths of private universities. Private universities are often very innovative, high-quality institutions that serve a large group of students, but they're often undervalued in other research-heavy university rankings. We are evaluating private universities based on their key strengths, and we hope to shine a light on this often overlooked sector. Another very unique ranking to look out for are the national rankings. We have plans to produce a national ranking for both the private and public universities in each individual country. Discussions with many countries are already in motion. What are the national rankings? They are a ranking of the private and public universities in your country. The national rankings will also help to attract and nurture the nation's best talent, taking employability to the next level. We're looking for a local supporting partner in each individual country, and we hope Pacocoa will take up this project with us. This is my second last slide, and I would like to leave you with a list of the first of its kind from Applied HE. We have Future, the world's first professional networking platform, specially created for the higher education sector. Alumni engagement and management solutions, bite-sized online internship, and fireside chat for students. And for rankings, also the first of its kind, we have the Applied HE Rankometer for world university rankings, the Applied HE private and public university rankings by country for the national rankings, and the Applied HE private and public university rankings by region, of which we will be launching the ASEAN Private University Ranking on the 23rd of February, 2022, 5 p.m. Philippine time. And this is my last slide, which gives you an overview of all the products and services that Applied HE have created in the short space of time since our inception. We have the tools and strategies to help you with your quest for internationalization. And yes, indeed, we are the new kid on the block. And as a new kid, we are nimbler, hungrier, and more sensitive to your needs. Applied HE can help you with international branding and marketing, student recruitment, benchmarking, and a whole range of other solutions locally, that is, global and local. And before I hand the mic to Peter, I would like to share with you this tweet from my ex-company. Through their student surveys, they found that 77% of prospective students value a lesser known university with a higher student satisfaction score. Now, please note that both our Job Ready rating and rankings have a great emphasis on student surveys. So what this means is, if you build up your brand equity, even if you're not in the top tier, you'd still be pretty attractive to many universities. Proof that it is all about branding. So I hope you are as excited as we are creating all these new and innovative strategies for you. Please write to us if you have any questions or would like more info or even requests for demos. And needless to say, we are really looking forward to helping Pacocoa members with their internationalization journey. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Now it's my turn. Today I will be talking about the Applied HE ranking and rating systems, and my talk will be followed by a simulation. And to be very honest, the simulation is something completely new. We've not done that before. It came about after a discussion we had with our partners from Pacocoa about what would be the best way to do this webinar. So we're very excited to try it. Now, many of you should have received a link from the Pacocoa Secretariat that will enable you to participate and take part in the simulation. It's essentially a link to a Google Sheets document where you can enter some information about your institution, and then you can have an idea of what your rating result will be like. But I'll talk more about that later, but then you know that that is coming up in about maybe 20 minutes from now. So now allow me to share a little bit more about our ranking and rating system, basically going a little bit more in depth of what Mandy has been saying. Essentially, the question that we try to answer with all our evaluation products is what makes a university good? And that, of course, is not a straightforward question because it depends on who you ask. Are people interested in a job? Are they interested in studying online, on campus, hybrid? Do they want to know about knowledge and skills, lifelong learning, internationalization, or studying in English, sustainability, and community? It depends who you ask, you get a different answer. So defining a good university is by definition subjective. Now, the question that you probably as a decision maker should ask yourself is which evaluation tools fit with your values. Because if the evaluation tool doesn't fit with what you're trying to achieve as a university, you will always have this tremendous friction where you will not perform well in the chosen evaluation. And if you try to perform well, you will lose sight of your mission, your purpose. So it's very important to choose an evaluation method that fits. So I will talk briefly about rankings and ratings. Just as a reminder, a ranking is essentially 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a zero-sum game, right? Only one institution can be first, second, third. Whereas a rating is more similar to an accreditation. There can be multiple institutions with an A+, a B+, and what have you. So it's a broader based evaluation tool. Starting first about the ranking. So as Mandy already mentioned, last year we launched Rankometer, the World University Ranking Simplified, which was a kind of remixed rankings of 5 of the most influential world university rankings. And this year we're launching the Private University Ranking ASEAN, which is the first kind of homegrown applied HE ranking. The Rankometer, yes, we mentioned briefly, it's already on our website. But I think for especially the Philippines, and the private university ranking ASEAN is much more significant. Also because the Rankometer, I think, included only 1 or 2 Philippine institutions. And this is because of the nature of the measure. It's heavily based on research, and research budgets in many emerging economies are much, much smaller. So what are the right criteria that we look at? Well, we always look at 6 core criteria. We look at teaching and learning, employability, research, community outreach, internationalization, and institutional reputation. And then depending on the kind of ranking we develop, there might be different criteria weighting and also possible additional criteria. So if we were to do, let's say, a ranking of the Philippines, there might be an additional criterion that is particularly relevant to the Philippines, for which very good comparable data is available that we could include. But the core always resolves about these 6 areas. Now, for the Applied HE Private University Ranking ASEAN, teaching and learning is 40%, employability is 15%, research is 15%, so this already accounts for 60%. And then, 60, I can't count it, 70%, sorry. And then community outreach, internationalization, and institutional reputation are the other ones, which we measure in various ways. Again, here's the breakdown. As you can see, teaching and learning and employability are the big ones, which clearly sets us apart from some of the other rankings, which don't really look at either of these areas. Now, how do we collect data? First of all, we run student surveys, and we do that online. Our process is obviously GDPR or PDP compliant, whatever privacy law you have in your country. They're all fairly similar. We have that. Our process is compliant. We've run it in many countries, so that's not an issue. Bibliometrics, kind of the academic papers and things we look at Google Scholar. And I think that's very important to emphasize, because Google Scholar is the world's largest database of scientific documents. I think it's about 4 or 5 times as large as Scopus. So that means that we capture much more material, and with that much more materials from emerging countries. So hence the decision to choose Google Scholar. And finally, we do we do ask for institutional data, but we do an interval sampling audit, which means that for a certain number of institutions, we really look at the data that they've submitted. Actually, this morning, I wrapped up our last audit interview for the ASEAN ranking. And this is a way for us to really confirm that the data we're getting fits with the institution, really this kind of verification process. And then if you look at the sources of data, about half, 50% comes from our student surveys, about just a little under 30% comes from institutional data, and then bibliometrics and reputation is the remaining 23%. So quite balanced, but heavily focused on the student survey. Now, why should you join? Just in general, of course, we've already run the ranking for this year, so you cannot join the ASEAN Private University ranking this year. Next week we'll be pre-releasing the data, and the week after will be the formal official launch online, as I'm sure Mandy has already mentioned. Well, why would you want to join us? Number one, because there are relevant criteria and ratings. Let's be very honest. If you're a private Philippine university, your research budget is always going to be limited, and your performance in many of the rankings is going to be limited, right? Because you don't have a multi-billion-dollar research budget. Whereas with our criteria and ratings, which I think are also more relevant to your students, you have a much better chance of competing. It's also an opportunity for peer benchmarking, seeing how you're doing against your peer institutions. Similar a little bit to accreditation. Of course, we are more international in our focus. A ranking and a rating is a much lighter instrument than a full accreditation. So it serves a different purpose. And the saying sometimes goes, if you're ranked, you exist. It never hurts to be ranked, even if you're not top ranked. Because then people at least know that you're on the list, you're one of the respected universities. And for our rankings, there is no charge. And in fact, we give you a lot of data. I'll get into that in a moment, that we believe makes it worth your while. So we have our rating as well. So the ranking is a kind of free of charge public service that we offer, and the ratings is a paid-for product. Now, we have 3 ratings. We've got the Applied HE Job Ready rating, which is a kind of 360-degree look at learning and employability. We've got our English Ready rating and our Online Ready rating. And today we will do a simulation for the Job Ready rating, and therefore I'm going to skip over very quickly the English Ready and the Online Ready. Now, we've got a number of newly rated institutions, mainly from the Asian region, as you can see. The Job Ready rating. What are the ways that it's set apart? Well, first of all, we think it's very relevant because we focus on career learning, the community and industry collaboration. We think for many higher education institutions, both in developed and developing countries, these are really the things that are important to them. It's also very versatile. Our rating can be used for anything from a vocational diploma to a postgraduate degree. So, because whether you're doing vocational education, right, post-high school, let's say 2-year diploma, or a professional PhD of some sort, or even an academic PhD, factors like your career, your learning, your community, your employability, they will always be relevant. So that's why it's done in that way. It's interdisciplinary. We can evaluate programs from 22 different employment clusters. Now, these are the rating criteria. We look at outcomes, we look at delivery, and we look at the institution. And in a moment when we do the simulation, I will really get into the details with you. And so for outcomes, we look at graduate competence, employability, remuneration, and entrepreneurship. For delivery, we look at teaching and learning, the faculty profile, industry exposure, and intercultural competence. And then finally, for the institution, because you cannot have great outcomes and great delivery without a strong institution, we have stakeholder perception, inclusiveness and access, applied research, and community engagement. And there is also quite a bit of overlap with the SDGs. Now, how do we gather data? We run student surveys, faculty surveys, alumni surveys, and employer surveys, and we collect some institutional data. That is the primary sources of our data. So it's a very all-round kind of stakeholder-driven approach. Now, I briefly want to jump into quality management, just to make a point. I mean, many of you who are from a quality management background may be familiar with the European framework for quality management, right? Which was established, I think, in the 1970s, and it's applied all over the place, including in manufacturing, quality control, whatnot. Now, essentially, our kind of triple perspective of the institution, the delivery and outcomes overlaps and dovetails very nicely with the EFQM framework. So the direction is essentially the institution, the execution is essentially the delivery of the education, and the results are essentially the outcomes. So it's a very much kind of quality management driven approach to job ready rating. It's a very classical approach in that sense, and very solid, very well established. And perhaps many of your institutions are already working with some kind of EFQM type of framework, maybe also some kind of ISO framework. I would assume that it fits in very nicely in what you're already doing. So it's highly, highly complementary. Now, looking at the Sustainable Development Goals, some institutions like to emphasize that they cover all, is it 28 or 30 of them? But I think for an institution of higher learning, really the areas that is most relevant to them are these 4 goals: quality of education, decent work and economic growth, industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequality, sustainable cities and communities, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. So you can also use the data that we gather, and I'll show you how that works in a moment, the job ready rating, to kind of benchmark yourself against the SDGs. And we've noticed that in higher education, this is increasingly important. Also, students have great interest in the SDGs. So it makes sense to do it that way. So again, I want to emphasize that the job ready rating is incredibly versatile. There's a very strong quality management framework behind it. And there's also an SDG framework. And then finally, we look at the Stakeholder Perception Index, which is kind of adapted from the Consumer Perception Index, which people from market research may be familiar with. So the Stakeholder Perception Index is our adaptation, and it basically lets you map how do your most important stakeholders think about your institutions? Students, alumni, employer, faculty. So essentially, when you do one rating, you get three perspectives. You get the quality management perspective, you get the SDG perspective, and you get the stakeholder perception index. So basically, you get everything. And I think we're the only ones that really give you something that is so thorough in terms of methodology. Now, the employment clusters that Mandy already mentioned, we included these for two reasons. First of all, because there are huge differences between academic disciplines. Pharmaceuticals and life sciences is something very different from, let's say, legal services, right? The facilities you need, the industry partners you deal with, etc. So grouping them all together creates analytical issues. The second consideration is that students tend to decide the area that they're interested in before they look at the university. So a student will first decide, okay, I want to go to logistics and trade or computers and IT or art and design, and then they will find an institution that matches that interest. So from a communication point of view, doing the rating by employment cluster makes more sense to the user, which is the student, and also to an extent the employer. So this is the reason why we rate by employment cluster and not at the institutional level. And I think that that offers important advantages. Now, having talked about the ranking and the rating, you may wonder, how do they fit together? Should I choose one or the other? Now, the answer is both, and they both serve a slightly different purpose. The ranking primarily looks at your global standing. If we're talking about ASEAN, standing within ASEAN, and it's always going to be a bit superficial, a bit thinner. And the job ready rating is a more solid evaluation tool, and it essentially looks at how your local stakeholders perceive you. So it is possible that due to circumstances, your global standing within ASEAN is not phenomenally high, but that doesn't mean that you can still have a very high rating outcome. So those can be quite different. Now, there is overlap, as I mentioned, but as you can see, the job ready rating and the equivalencies are much more thorough. So whereas, for instance, the private university ranking only looks at employability, job ready also looks at graduate competence, remuneration, entrepreneurship, etc. So it's a much more solid evaluation framework that you get with the rating. Also, many more stakeholders that are being evaluated. Now, the English ready rating is not as relevant for the Philippines. It was designed for institutions located in non-English speaking countries, but it still exists, but I'm going to skip through it because of time. And then we have the online ready rating, which I think is important to emphasize is service-specific purpose, and it's a much lighter tool than the job ready rating. So the job ready rating is really a flagship. We've got SDGs, quality management, stakeholder perception, all in one. And this is very narrow, very focused purely on online programs. Now, basically, we realized that there is no global standard for online taught programs. At the very minimum, an online program is that I send you an email with the syllabus, right? And then I see you a couple months from now to hand in the assignments. But of course, if we're talking about really high quality online learning, there's special software that you can use. You can have interactive class discussions, webinars like we're doing now. Faculty are very responsive. There's online counseling. There's all sorts of things which really can give you a much higher quality learning experience. So that's why we created it, because we think there's a great value in independently benchmarking your online programs against kind of the global best practices. Then if we look at recruitment, online learning is a great way to target non-traditional student groups. And that could be for lifelong learning. That could also be for international learners. I mean, coming from the Philippines, where of course you teach in English, you've got a huge English-speaking market that you can potentially reach online from the Philippines, and you've got a very competitive cost base. So then an online ready rating signals to potential students that you offer a very high quality online program. It also gives you stakeholder insights. It helps you to understand the student and the faculty perspective. which you can use for your internal quality improvement. So for the online ready rating, we look at course delivery. Is it interactive? Are the materials suitable? Is it high quality? We look at learning support in terms of coaching, counseling, tech support. We look at the examinations, whether there's video proctoring, whether you can do it online, whether there is credit transfer. And we look at faculty, whether they're properly trained, whether they're qualified, and whether they get support in instructional design. So really all the best practices in online learning we kind of look at. Now, we evaluate this actually mainly based on student surveys and faculty surveys. We basically ask student surveys, is this what's happening?
You're muted.
Hi. I'm very sorry. My computer decided to stop working. So yes, I'm now joining on my phone and I'm restarting my computer as we speak. I'm so sorry about that. So as my computer restarts, in a moment we'll do the thing. So I was talking about English Ready, the English Ready rating, and essentially, the online ready rating. And essentially it's a tool to evaluate your online programs, benchmark them against global best practices, as mentioned before. Now, I've unfortunately lost contact with my slides, but I want to emphasize a few more things. One of them is data. So when we do our ratings and our rankings, we don't aim to just collect data and give you back a report card. I mean, we could stop there, but we think it's very valuable to share that data with you. So we can share with you all the raw anonymized survey data with an institution. So that if you're anyway doing analysis on your own institution, you don't have to double up. You can use the data that we've collected and you can do additional analysis, additional breakdowns for your institution, which is something I think is very beneficial. People often say data is the new gold, and we agree with that, and we're keen to share it. Also, if you get the reports from us, you get a lot of benchmarking information. So as soon as we have enough institutions rated or ranked, we try and show you exactly where you are performing compared to your peers, so that you have a good idea of where you stand. The other thing that we do, which Mandy got into already, is we give you a kind of an advanced start on publicity. We ourselves have a number of publicity platforms. We've got Future, our social network site. We've got Extra, which is our news press release website. We also generate a ranking certificate or a rating certificate, ranking and rating badges, which you can use. So basically that if you've done a rating or a ranking, because it's a fairly diverse product, surely you can find some superlatives which you can use to improve your institution or for that internal benchmarking and so on. So that is the additional value added that you get. The other slide, which I cannot show you at the moment, is about the implementation schedule. So especially for our ratings, we work on an on-demand basis. So if you're interested in doing the rating, we work with you to fit your schedule. Now, typically, we start by asking a few questions about your institution. How many students does it have? What is the contact person? What are the employment areas that you're looking at to have rated? That kind of setup. That usually takes about 1 week. And then we can already set up your online surveys. Now, these online surveys, we basically send you a very simple short link, and you can distribute that to your students, your faculty, alumni, employers, etc. They go to our website, they enter their email address, and then they get the survey link. Now that email process is important for us because it lets us verify the surveys. Because basically we collect some personal information. Basically we want to know a name of a person, telephone number, the email address, so that we can verify that they are really the person that completed the survey. So in that sense, yeah, we carefully monitor and vet the survey data. So sadly enough, we've had institutions who've tried to manipulate survey data, and we find out. So you cannot do that. So we're quite confident in using the survey as a solid evaluation framework. Now the second thing that we then do is that we run the surveys, which is maybe takes place during a period of a month or however much time you need. And during that time, we constantly send you reports sharing with you how your institution is doing, how the performance is, so that you can encourage people to complete the responses. And then once the survey is complete, we can generate already for you a kind of draft report where you get the results while we do the audit. And usually the draft report and the final report will be almost unchanged. So what that basically means that in a period of, let's say, 6 weeks, if you really wanted to, we could rate your entire institution. It is really dependent on you. And I think that's another advantage of our ranking and our rating, especially. Okay, now I'm trying to get back into my computer, which is loaded, so that I can start sharing the spreadsheet with you. I understand that Pakukoa has already made groups, and what I'd like to try is to see if we can, first I will talk you through the whole spreadsheet, so that you can see how it works. And then you can perhaps try in your own groups to fill out the spreadsheet to evaluate for your own hypothetical institution what would a likely score be. So if I can briefly check, perhaps people can mention in the chat or mention in the chat if you're having an issue. It is possible maybe that if you registered at the last moment, or if you aren't a Pakukoa member, that you didn't get the link for the simulation. So I apologize if that's the case. But in that case, I hope you still enjoy the simulation that I'm going to do on share screen in just a moment from now. Yeah, it is loading. Okay. Give me 1 second. Okay, I will now rejoin with my PC. And then, so I apologize, I log out here 1 second and I'll be back in 1 minute.
All right, and here we are. Now it is time to make sure that the screen sharing goes without a hitch. Yes, and it is. Okay, I am sharing the screen. Yeah. And I believe now you can see my spreadsheet in Google Docs.
Clear.
Very clear. I'm going to make it a little bigger. Oops, I hope that doesn't change things. Yes. So this is also very useful both as a simulation and so that you can see the breakdown of the rating outputs. So basically all of these things are measured based on surveys of the various stakeholders, right? So you can see students, faculty, alumni, industry partners, which are usually employers. Yeah, it can also have, or if there's only a research relationship, and also the institution itself. there can be some data from there. And then here you see the points, and here you see a comment about what you should enter. Now in the surveys, we ask questions, basically a 1 to 5 scale, 5 being the best, 1 being the lowest, and institutions can enter. So we ask employers what are the technical and subject knowledge, what are the problem solving skills, etc. Now typically a rating that we receive is somewhere between 3.5 and 4.5. And that are the normal average evaluations. So let's say here, this institution is doing very well in some areas, not so well in others. So we just fill this out. This would come from the surveys. And as you do the simulation, if you're knowledgeable of your own institution, you maybe have an idea already where you're a bit stronger, where you're a bit weaker. So maybe we look at the ease of study work transition is something that's evaluated by both alumni and by industry partners. So you can fill out numbers there, see where you're strong or weak. Then the 6-month post-graduation employment rate, we ask for the alumni figure, we survey them. Let's say it's 95%, and then the institution said it's 97.3%. Let's say it's good figures. We measure both employment and further study. So I understand many students in the Philippines, they go on study for a professional board exam. That's also included with that figure. Then we ask quite uniquely employer demand for graduates. Do they intend to hire more or less? Well, let's say that they're quite positive about that. And then we also ask about the employment expectation of the graduate samples. So we fill something in. Now, here it gets a bit tricky with the math. So we try to essentially measure the affordability of the course as compared to the graduates' expected income levels. So we look at graduate starting income. We ask that to both employers and alumni, and also the 5-year post-graduation income, because for many professions, your starting income can be very, very low. But the 5-year post-graduation gives us a good idea. And we ask that based on a scale. We ask people to indicate a bandwidth, what they believe that the income is. Now, I'm really not familiar with the Philippines. I did look up what we use to calculate is the gross national income in the local currency, which I believe in the Philippines is about 50,000 pesos, and then maybe annual tuition fees for a local university, let's say it's 80,000 pesos. I understand that it's sometimes something like that. Of course, please fill in the correct figure that you feel is appropriate. Then maybe salaries, annual salaries, maybe they start off maybe a bit lower. I'm just making up the figures, right? But what we want to measure is that actually that the salary income is in a good proportion to the tuition fees being charged and national income. So that's kind of the goal that we have. And so this is national income levels in local currency before tax. And that is how we do the comparison. And that gives us a kind of a figure, how we look at the income that students generate and how that compares to what they spend and what is normal. We also ask them the satisfaction with income, because that's also a reasonable thing to ask. It's not always about the quantum per se, but if for the work is it. And of course, work-life balance, because many professions, the income is maybe not fantastic, such as in academia, but the work-life balance can be quite good. So that's why people are quite happy with it. So that is why we try to, again, have fairly broad measure of remuneration. Now, career advancement potential is something we ask employers to evaluate if they think that the people they're hiring from your institution have potential for the future. And we also ask alumni about their career outlook. Maybe at the moment they're a little bit depressed because of COVID. Let's say if they get career and lifelong learning support from their alma mater, and then also their entrepreneurial action, preparedness, and intent. And we ask this to students and also to alumni. Now, it's important to note that we kind of see entrepreneurship as a skill here. So we don't ask them, did you start a business? How many startups are there? But more if you feel confident that should the opportunity arise, you could start a business, that kind of self-confidence, having that entrepreneurial skill, organizational talent, that is essentially what we're trying to measure with that question. Now moving to teaching and learning. These are very traditional questions about how you evaluate teaching and learning. We basically ask about the teaching itself, the instructors, the facilities and the resources, and also the campus environment. So I'm just putting in some numbers here. Let's say these are the averages. We also look at the completion rates. I mean, I'm sure for your institutions, those are very high. Because you're all very good institutions. So, but of course, if they're quite low, that's often a warning sign that something is up. So that's why we check this. And again, we try to get it from two sources. We check by the student survey and we ask the institution. We also ask the faculty about the perception of teaching and learning, and it may be a bit surprising, but faculty are often quite honest. They sometimes say that it's not very good at their own institution, which surprised us. So that's why we actually included this. We did some how do you call it, some focus group research on that, and faculty are quite willing to give an answer that's not always the desirable answer, so it's worth asking them. We look very strongly at faculty holding a teaching qualification, and I think we're looking for at least 50% or more of the teaching qualification, because we think it's very important. Especially if you're preparing students for industry, you're more teaching-focused institution, this is very, very important. The criteria for a teaching qualification is that it's 400 hours, can be internal or external, and can include practicum. So if you have an internal teaching qualification like a PGCHE, I think in the British system, I'm sure you have a system similar in the Philippines, that's there, then that counts. And we basically ask faculty, do you hold the qualification? And then we reserve the right to audit that answer, to basically call them or check with the institution, does Dr. X actually hold that qualification, yes or no? We also believe that industry experience is very relevant, because if you don't know what is going on in industry, then that's a poor sign. I think we're looking for a kind of minimum average of 5 years for an institution to get some points there, 5 to 10 years. So let's say 6.7 years. Faculty satisfaction with working conditions. We believe that happy faculty make good faculty very often. Again, a question worth asking. Then the number of faculty with a 5-year to 15-year retention rate. This may seem like a little bit of a strange question, but it basically comes from the belief that if you have very high turnover or extremely low turnover, that's a poor sign. So we think about 50% of faculty should be within this range. It shouldn't be 100%. So let's say 56% are within this range. And faculty with outside industry appointments and consultancy, again, we think that's very important, because how do you know what's going on in industry if you have almost no faculty who have any ties to industry? So let's say it's high with this institution. Then employer satisfaction. So yeah, industry exposure, we don't say, oh, you need to have an internship of this many weeks or whatnot. We essentially look at the satisfaction that employers, students, and faculty have with that. And we think if employers, students, and faculty all think it's a good industry experience, you must be doing something good. So we don't want to force a timeline or something like that, because you can have a 6-month internship, but if all you're doing is making coffee and photocopies, then what did you really learn? Whereas if you have maybe a 2-month internship, but that's really hands-on, really impactful, that's much better. So again, I'm just entering in some numbers, and again, you know your institution, you have an idea of what the outcomes might be. Yeah. Now, intercultural competence. This has kind of come in instead of internationalization, and the reason for that is that many institutions, especially if they're more teaching focused, internationalization doesn't really make sense because they mainly serve the local market. And so they don't recruit many international students. They don't have much international faculty. At the same time, it is important that students have intercultural competences, that they can work across cultures, work with people from different backgrounds, etc. And so what we did is we had a look at the intercultural competence literature, and we borrowed a number of questions from survey research done there, and we incorporated that. So we look at interpersonal skills, teamwork, intercultural tolerance, and intercultural empathy. We basically have a battery of about 12 questions which students complete, and then we rate their skills in that area. And it's basically seeing, are they willing to work in groups with people from other ethnicities or religions? How do they look at people with a very heavy accent? Things like that. Those are used also in the scientific literature to measure intercultural competence. And we think that's more relevant also because you have the reverse sometimes. An institution has many international students, but those international students hardly interact with the local students. Well, that's also not generating intercultural competence, right? So we think this is the better measure. And especially because we're running the survey anyway, we can incorporate this, which maybe another ranking agency cannot do. Then for evaluating the institution, we start essentially asking the employer perception and the alumni perception. We do that through questions like, would you hire from this institution? Or alumni, would you recommend your institution, of course, to your friends and family? And of course, most will say that they do, because they've chosen to respond to your survey, right? So generally, we get good responses in this. I would think that an employer who's really not interested in working with you isn't even going to complete the survey. Then inclusiveness and access, we ask about whether people are accepting of students with different abilities, whether there are facilities for them, how many students receive scholarships, grants, or student loans. I think we're looking at something like 10% or up. The gender balance among students and faculty. So what is the ratio between men and women? We are looking for 50% in the ideal case. And it goes both ways, right? So if you have all women, that's also not a good sign. I think that's 57 here. Of course, we realize that in some fields, it's much harder to get that gender balance, right? Something like nursing might be more popular with female students, something like engineering might be more popular with male students. But we do think there's great value in institutions that really strive closer to that gender balance, that creates a much healthier environment. Mature students with previous work experience, I mean, of course, if you're running a graduate program, this is a bit easier, but also for undergraduate programs, we ask that because we think the whole reskilling story is very important. Student perception of safety and community, we basically ask students, do they feel at home in campus? And we ask faculty if they feel that they are involved in the faculty decision-making process. So we assign a number there. Faculty research and professional activities. This is an important one. We basically have a kind of checklist of the kind of professional activities where a faculty member can score points. And that's a very long checklist, meaning that as long as the faculty member is involved in a kind of professional or research activity, they already get a point. Whether it's a publication that's indexed by Google Scholar, or a newspaper article, or they've organized an exhibition, if they're in the arts, or they're sitting on a professional board, whatever it is. But we are looking for faculty members to have some kind of professional research activity. Not how much, but that they have some kind of activity. And again, the aim here is to make sure that that connection with industry exists. Also for applied research, we look at industry perception of institutional expertise. So do the industry partners think that it is a good institution? Do they come to you for advice? And similarly, how easy is it to do industry outreach? Do you have a proper IPR framework in place? Oops, this is the wrong box. And all that. Then finally, and I promise you this is the last one, we look at community engagement. So we look at media mentions in the past year. That might not be a problem. We look at online presence, where we use webometrics. So if you're in the top tier there, you get some extra points, but it's only 5 points of 600, right? So it's not huge. And then again, we ask students about their awareness of your social outreach programs, your environmental outreach programs, and their satisfaction with extracurricular activities. And again, here, we don't ask you, okay, send us pictures of your cleanup drives. No. If we want to make sure that students are aware, because if students are not aware, then you can ask yourself how effective it is. Okay, now if you've completed this, you can scroll to the right of the screen, and revealed is your score. So you can see the scores achieved against the maximum, and then you can see your percentage. Now at this time, we're looking for institutions to make at least 80% or higher to be able to achieve a good score. So this allows you to see, okay, this institution, graduate competence maybe not as high, but employability were very strong, etc. And in delivery, okay, well, we filled it in a little bit too well, I think. I mean, realistic is that there are some that are close to 80%, institutions not doing so well. I think in this case, when I was filling it in, I was having in mind the perfect institution, which is scored, of course, very, very high. Here, intercultural competence maybe, okay, still very good. Anyway, so this is a way for you to evaluate stakeholder perception, very high, and so on. And in this way, you can evaluate your institution. And right now we have, so this institution scored 535, so they are rated standard, but they're just below the merit or distinction rating. So you need about 480 or higher points to get merit, to be rated, and then we have merit and distinction as the alternatives. Now, here comes the big disclaimer. This simulation is not 100% representative of our final job-ready rating outcome. It is indicative, but it's not the final representation. Some of the indicators have a slightly more complex calculation, and also we haven't quite finalized where we put the rating tiers yet. So whether you get rated merit or distinction will slightly depend on how the numbers fall exactly in reality. So that's the big disclaimer I want to give here. So if you come back to me and say, oh, I got distinction in your simulation, but then you rated me and I was only merit, yeah, I cannot give you that guarantee. But hopefully it does show you areas of strength and weakness, and that is how we can work through it. Yeah, so that's the main purpose. Now, in addition to having completed the whole survey system from the rating scores, which is essentially, again, related to the European Quality Framework for Quality Management, you can also look at the Sustainable Development Goals page or tab. And there you can see your performance in the different goals. So you can see this institution, of course, quality of education scores very highly, maybe industry, innovation, and infrastructure not as highly, but still very good. So you can see different scores. So you can basically use all the results that you've generated with the rating, and you can use that as a kind of Sustainable Development Goals evaluation. And then finally, the Stakeholder Perception Index, where you look at your stakeholders. So here again for students, and you can see the areas where they are most satisfied, least satisfied. Faculty, areas where they're more or less satisfied. Okay, more satisfied with the institution, less satisfied with delivery in this case. The alumni, where they are most satisfied, and also industry partners, where you see their highest satisfaction. So here apparently slightly less with delivery, employer satisfaction. Now that's possible. Oh no, sorry, slightly less with outcomes. So there's a bit more criticism there. Now, you would start to worry if there are huge gaps within these groups. So if the students think it's fantastic, but the employers have serious questions, industry partners, if there is a large gap, that's an indication that something is amiss. And that's something you would want to focus on. So in that sense, it's useful to have the Stakeholder Perception Index. And the Stakeholder Perception Index would help you with communication. I should communicate more with my stakeholders. My alumni, I score lower. I need to work more on that. SDGs is, of course, SDG goals that you as an institution have committed yourself to. You may wish to push those more. And then the job ready rating, of course, for overall quality. Now, I am mindful that time is going quite fast, also with the technical difficulties we've had. So I don't know if you have all been able to work along. But if that is so, if you would like to share something, or if you have some questions about the simulation, I'd be very happy to hear them. I can see the chat. That may be the most effective way to do it. And I don't know, let me just quickly check our schedule now. So we officially have timing until, okay, 3:10, which is about, 4 minutes from now. So I think if you, the link should have been distributed. I believe you've received them. So I suggest we just leave those open and accessible for you for the coming days, the coming weekend, maybe until Tuesday or something, so that you can play around with the simulation. And then you can have an idea where you think your institution might fit, what might be strengths, weaknesses, identify areas where you think you are weak or very strong, and how that might be reflected in the rating, or in the SDGs, or in the Stakeholder Perception Index. So that's something for you to explore. But if there are questions right now, I'd be very happy to take them. If there are none, then of course you can email us as well, right? I will put my email here in the box, and you can write to me and all of that. All right, then I think if there's no urgent questions right this minute, I suggest we move to the closing remarks, and we start with Ms. Mandy Mock from Applied HE, the CEO and the founder. Please go ahead, Mandy.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you everyone for attending this special briefing organized by PACOCOA and Applied HE. In particular, allow me to thank Dr. Adlai and Dr. Conrad, and also the staff at the PACOCOA Secretariat who have been working hard behind the scenes. The purpose of this briefing was to highlight the ways in which Applied HE can support Philippine universities in their internationalization efforts, helping them to internationalize smarter, faster, and better. As a relatively young organization ourselves, we hope we can walk this journey of internationalization with you and grow together on the global stage. At the same time, as we set our sights on different visions, I would like to highlight 3 concrete points which you can start implementing today. First, you can undertake the Applied HE Job Ready rating, and in doing so, let the world know about the excellence of Philippine universities. An English-speaking country with an affordable cost of living and high-quality education institutions, this can help place the spotlight on Philippine universities for international and domestic students. So please review our information and register for the rating as soon as you can. Second, we offer a complete online platform for alumni engagement and management. This includes an intuitive, easy to use social media platform that is tied to a CRM system that lets you connect to your alumni with ease. And best of all, it's free. And rest assured, the data will always belong to you. So get started and explore our platform today. And finally, please come and participate in the Applied HE ASEAN rankings. A number of PACOCOA members have joined, and for those who have missed 2022, be sure to register for next year's edition. So thank you again for attending. Have a great weekend.
All right, and then the closing words is to Dr. Adlai, who is the Executive Director of PACOCOA in the Philippines. Dr. Adlai, the last word is yours.
Thank you, and thank you and congratulations, Mandy. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Mandy and Peter Stick for an excellent presentation, and to Mr. Simon Yo, Dr. Conrado Inigo, the chairman of PACOCOA Board of Directors, school presidents, guests, and believers and advocates of accreditation and continuous quality improvement. Good afternoon. What if one day you read in the newspapers, Philippine University graduate competes with graduates of the top ranking school in the world, the Massachusetts Institute of Technology? Perhaps your reactions may be, oh, baloney, that's far-fetched. That's a mouthful of hot air. I say that is not far-fetched. With the aggressive and intensive thrust of PACOCOA for continuous quality improvement, that dream may become a reality. Our links with international organizations allow PACOCOA to benchmark with them, upgrade our standards, and improve our practices and procedures, thus competing against graduates of world-renowned schools will eventually happen. Ranking at Applied HE is a wonderful opportunity to make that come true. So congratulations, you are now armed to the tooth. You know the criteria for ranking of Applied HE, and more importantly, you know how to compute the criteria. The prices presented by Mandy is a whooping 50% for 40% or 30% against a competitor. And so the price is very accessible. Allow me to conclude this webinar by emphasizing the 7 advantages of ranking. First, ranking expands the scope of assessment. PACOCOA assessment this year will include ranking under Internationalization roadmap of Area 1, Area 2, Area 10 of the self-survey instrument. Second, ranking enables strategic comparison and development or benchmarking. Third, ranking highlights the strengths of more universities. We will learn from the experience of other universities. And fourth, it allows better informed decision-making. Ranking gives you something to strive towards, a little more motivation, while it increases your institutions and the academic community's confidence and gives the momentum to want to keep it up, so don't drop any places. Finally, ranking enables students to decipher the differences between schools. For a school to be ranked is an excellent marketing tool. Post-haste, let me emphasize that ranking forms part of the upgraded standards of PACOCOA. In light of these advantages, let's go ranking. God bless and stay safe. Please continue wearing your face mask and face shields.
Okay. Can we declare it closed? Thank you so much for those last words, Dr. Adlai. They were very nice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mandy.
Thank you very much. And I think in a few moments, Simon will turn off the feed. So thank you very much. Have a great weekend, everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Can we have a picture?
Have a good day. A picture.
Oh, you want a picture?
Sure.
Sure. We can all
Perfect.
wait.
Sure. Jonah, please.
Hey, ma'am.
Yeah, open up your